The dawn of the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs is on the horizon. After 13 rounds, we have reached the end of the regular season for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Tonight, many drivers' championship hopes will be dashed, and others will book their ticket into having a shot at etching their name into the sim racing history books and onto an illustrious trophy. Good evening, folks, and welcome aboard another live production of the E-Motorsports Network on iRacing. Season 6 NASCAR Series action once again. This is round number 14, the regular season finale of one of North America's premier road course facilities. Welcome to the virtual Watkins Glen International for the 5th annual GTR 110 at the Glen. And welcome into the broadcast booth. The voice you're hearing is on the left side of the graphic, Regan McCauley. On the other side, he's been here since the very beginning in Jordy Kerher. Jordy, today we're back at with left and right hand turns. It's been kind of a roller coaster here towards the end of this regular season, from road and street courses to ovals, going back and forth. We were at Darlington Raceway, the Lady in Black, and the track Too Tough to Tame. Last Monday night, we had our comers and goers. It was an endurance and attrition-filled race. Lots of strategy at play. We all thought Corbin McCauley was finally going to have his big break after winning the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue pole, winning the first two stages, leading many laps, and then unfortunately crashing out. And then driver like Jordan Kalina, knowing the hot runs that he's had as of recently, he just didn't have the overall pace to have a shot at the victory overall last Monday night. So in the final about 25 laps or so, it came down to a shootout between a pair of drivers looking to be a playoff bubble buster. It was Justin Belmonte, Jared Ireland, both in that situation with the playoff bubble, trying to win their way into the playoffs, but at the same time, too, they were on long winless streaks going into that night, so someone had to give, someone was going to victory lane, and what a shootout it was to the end. Another classic, an instant classic of a race and a finish at Darlington.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly white knuckle action there for the majority of that final stage, especially because, as you say, there was that unpredictability that came into play once we had our top two or three drivers identified, and especially knowing what was at stake last week with Belmonte and Ireland. Now, as we look forward, as they kind of said whenever we went off the air last time, this is the last shot for a lot of guys, and there are still a lot of guys that you would typically expect to be on the outside looking in, they're still there right now, and they're not going to have another shot after tonight. So it's do or die here for some very familiar names within the series.
Yeah, some pretty big names, especially, and a former series champion, especially, that we're going to get into in just a little bit. So without further ado, let's go back and quickly recap what went down last Monday night at Darlington Raceway in the Valvoline Instant Oil Change pre-race show. Thanks very much to Valvoline Instant Oil Change for being the sponsor this season for our pre-race and post-race shows and our team standings as well. Jordy, I said earlier Justin Belmonte or Jared Ireland. It happened to be the driver from Pachico, New York. The number 60 Warrior Raps Ford going to victory lane, ending a 13-race winless streak and locking himself into the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs with what was his 5th career win in the series, but his 2nd career crown jewel win. He now has a GTR 250 on his resume, and also, after last Monday night, a Darlington Throwback 250 win presented by Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue. He held off a hard charge in Jared Ireland, as I said, in the closing laps of a run that was just about under 30 green flag laps. And man, oh man, as I said earlier, what a finish it was. And I mean, feel good story for Justin Belmonte. He can breathe a sigh of relief tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, in sort of a reversal of last season, it was very much right place, right time for the 60. Last week, we know how close he came to getting to the playoffs in season 2, ultimately finishing second in the regular season finale, which would be this same slot in terms of the overall season. Ultimately picked up a win at Auto Club later when it didn't matter as much. But the man who was best of the rest last year, he is proving to very much be in the competition to shed that of the rest part of the label. He wants back in the big dance, and he's gotten himself there with that well-earned win, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the mix.
And so am I. He was the best of the rest champion last year. Of course, we're going to have that same thing this year for those that do not end up making the playoffs in season number 6. He was best of the rest last year, picked up a win, his previous win before last Monday at Auto Club Speedway, the penultimate race of season 5. This time around, he's back within the playoff mix and ready to fight for an Earl Ross Cup. Of course, Jared Ireland coming home second. He'll be in a must-win situation tonight. Mason Tomlinson with a podium finish there. Wasn't prime position to capitalize if Belmonte or Ireland got together, but nonetheless, third place, solid points night, and he'll look to lock himself in points-wise, or maybe even pull off a victory here at Watkins Glen. Jordan Kalinian qualified second, wound up finishing in 4th. Kyle Knoll rounds out the top 5. He started back at 15th, so a solid hard charger run by him there. Darcy Ford in 6th. He did not want to see a guy like Justin Belmonte in the situation that he ended up in last Monday, so Darcy Ford is right on that cut line right there. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. Blake Thronberg, Matthew McDonald rounding out the lead lap cars. A great finish, great return for the number 25 driver out of Alberta for Matthew McDonald. Scott Bailey 9th, and Dan Cudmore rounding out the top 10. You see Bryce Fontaine with the RepuLinks fastest lap. A bunch more cars laps down. Again, a bunch of drivers just fighting against the attrition, the endurance of the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue 250 at Darlington Raceway. Again, the annual throwback race. None of those mandatory stage yellows. That whole annual deal there. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, heartbreak for Corbin McCauley. 2 stage wins and the pole, but wound up finishing in 18th. He is locked into the playoffs, though, points-wise, so all good, but he wants to definitely try to get some good momentum going and have some confidence going into another championship where he looked to defend it after winning it last year in Season 5. And yeah, some rough results for Tornado Alley Racing, the leading team this season. Adam Wilson, Ty Higginbottom, C.D. Mangrum, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, so they'll try to bounce back tonight and get some good runs, good momentum going into the playoffs after tonight. Of course, then we get to the driver's standings where Jordan Kalinian has clinched the regular season championship. Of course, he is at the top of the board. Carmen McCauley still remains the best of the rest in terms of drivers without a win. As I said, already locked in on points. There's a couple other drivers that'll either lock in on points or maybe a win. Again, that playoff cut line, Jordy, what a bubble it is. I mean, only 11 points separating Andy Hurdle and Darcy Ford if you're to kind of put everyone in order based on locked in on wins and points and those that still have to make their way in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be the main thing that we're focused on tonight, I would suggest. But again, you look at some of the other guys who are outside, like even Jose Mercado in 11th isn't necessarily safe on a plus 12 gap going into the evening, but you're looking very much at must-win territory for your Kyle Knoll, your Adam Wilson if he wants to get back into the playoffs, your Jared Ireland if he wants to get in the playoffs, to say nothing of Mike Marini trying to get in on the very outside here. So, there's still, like, we saw the apple cart get upset a little bit last week. It's going to need to happen again in order to have things shaken up. But yeah, tonight we finalized that 12. So it's kind of all or nothing here for any of those guys who are below that line.
Valvoline Instant Oil Change team standings. It continues to be all Tornado Alley Racing. As I said earlier, though, and as you saw with the results graphic, of course, the three of them finishing 20th or worse at Darlington. Their lead dropped from plus 104 to plus 65 over GTR Motorsports, but still a very strong lead. Just, I guess, kind of a one-off unfortunate night for the leading team in the series for season number 6. So again, they'll try to get things back on the right rhythm. No position changes for yet another week. Manufacturer standings, Toyota jumped from a plus 68 lead to 377 points above Ford. Ford and Chevrolet remain separated by 68 points for second place. Rookie of the Year standings, Blake Thronberg's lead continues to increase within the past couple of weeks. It's now at plus 47 compared to plus 31 going into Darlington last Monday night. We were seeing over the season Raymond Hanneman, who just got started with us at round 3 compared to everybody else, was starting to close that gap bit by bit, but now Hanneman's had a bit of rough results as of recently, so maybe he'll try to kick it back into a normal rhythm here tonight. But of course, that does it for the recap of last week's race at Darlington Raceway. We now shift gears into tonight to wrap up the regular season of Watkins Glen International here on Monday, July 28th for 45 green flag laps presented by GTR Motorsports ahead of next Monday night when we begin the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs at Bristol Motor Speedway, the Great Coliseum, on Monday, August 4th for 250 laps. The first race of the 2-race round of 12. Again, we'll get into all that just a little bit later, as qualifying has just begun here at the virtual Watkins Glen International. Again, do remember that because we're at a road/street course, it's not that thing on the ovals where it's single car qualifying 2 laps per car. It's a 15-minute session. Whoever puts up the fastest lap at the end of 15 minutes is going to sit on the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue pole.
Yeah, and like I said, it's kind of the all or nothing element here tonight. So I'm looking for guys to just explore every single millimeter of this track to find that last bit of speed, because like I said, literally everything matters at this point. There's no sense in holding anything back right now.
So as I said earlier, this is the 5th annual running of the GTR 110 at Watkins Glen International. Thanks very much to GTR Motorsports for presenting tonight's event, round number 14 on the year. Just a couple minutes into qualifying here. Most drivers on their hot laps, or maybe even their first lap here in qualifying, as that's not the start that Andy Hurdle wanted.
Not ideal, nope.
And again, we talked about earlier, the driver 11 points above Darcy Ford. That's a pair of teammates trying to go for that final spot. And you never know if someone below them might even burst the bubble and cause both of them to might even make it. You never know.
I mean, yeah, there's no quarter given. It is absolutely, no room for error out there. No room between teammates. Every person for themselves.
We were here at Watkins Glen back in seasons 1, 2, and 3. Oh, wow.
Oh,
That is your winner from Darlington last Monday, Justin Belmonte. Again, he did get his playoff spot last Monday, but still...
he got his win, yes.
Yeah, but still tonight should be a focus on trying to, keep up what happened from last Monday. Still try to be up there, contend for the win, get some good points going into the playoffs, because again, some of those extra little points do matter when it's go time to chase the Earl Ross Cup. But as I was saying, yes, Watkins Glen active in seasons 1, 2, and 3 during all console era years. Season 4, we didn't go to any road/street courses, which made perfect sense for the transition to iRacing. We wanted to kind of stay a little bit comfortable with our drivers, more so on the ovals. Track returned in Season 5 last year as a playoff elimination race in the first round, which, go figure, Jordan Kalinian ended up dominating that one and picking up the win. It was a playoff race also back in season number 3. So, in a way, this race tonight is kind of an elimination of sorts, not in a way where it's not where it's within the playoffs and drivers get eliminated more so that way. This time around, it's, drivers just simply don't make the playoffs.
We're setting the 12. That's all you really need to know about tonight. And obviously we have 7 of those spots locked up, 6 winners and Corbin McCauley on points. Most of the other spots are pretty safe, but again, we highlighted 11 through 13 being separated by 12 points, which we'll keep a close eye on here over the course of the evening. But still lots to play for toward the bottom end of our playoff picture. And yeah, this is kind of the last shot at it.
Watkins Glen at 2.45 miles and 3.94 kilometers, at least on this specific layout. It's the regular one that the NASCAR Cup Series has always used. There is that little boot you can kind of over towards that right side of the screen. That's where the cars would go for the longer layout. But it's the Cup layout, as the iRacing service specifically calls it. 8 turns, it's nicknamed the Glen. They call it the birthplace of post-war road racing in North America. And you know what, Jordy? Why not do a hot lap with your reigning race winner? Fingers crossed that he does another lap.
Indeed so, and thankfully I'm on board with him on this side. It looks like he's charging on a hot lap this time around, but he's going to go into a hard braking zone into this opening 90-degree turn, getting nice and wide out of that so he can get a nice attack through the S's here. Make his way up the gears as he gets up the hill. And yeah, he's in 4th right about now as he comes onto this straightaway out of the bend. We'll see if he gets up to 5th. Yes, he does. And just avoids another car there. Nice slowdown around 600 meters. Nice angle into the bus stop chicane. And gets it pointed straight. And now he's doing what you need to do in the carousel section. Really hugging that curb on the inside. That way he can really track out wide on exit. And now we come through to a little mini straight. And yeah, the lap is just about complete as it is right now. Just a couple more quick turns here. Don't need to get too far outside there on that left-hander. Now you get really tight to the pit lane entrance, then out to the wall. Kind of loses it there at the end. But yeah, ultimately, that would have been the end of the lap run. It was looking really clean up until that point. But yeah, sometimes, I don't know if he just maybe tracked out a little bit too much there. But that gives you a good enough picture as to what a lap at Watkins Glen International looks like.
Indeed, so 8 turns on this specific NASCAR Cup Series layout. Whole bunch of different unique characteristics all over the place.
And speaking of all over the place, as Kalinian tries to make his way back out, Scott Bailey had gone sideways out of the 90, so it was blocking the pit lane briefly.
Not ideal.
No. But I'll tell you what is ideal. That time that Kalinian has set so far for pole position, nearly 3/10 up on Corbin McCauley, and there's more speed in there as well, because if you look at the practice times, he was in the mid 109s, which is just out of, like, otherworldly compared to some of the times that I had been seeing, especially when I popped into the practice session there last night briefly. I think like a 110.2 or a 110.4 was the fastest. To throw down a 109.5 like you did in practice, Kalinian still might be very much in business here, but the gap doesn't look quite as big.
Yeah, top two are currently a duo, pair of former Watkins Glen winners. Corbin McCauley is the inaugural winner at Watkins Glen back in Season 1. That was August 18th, 2020. Yes, time flies by.
Yep.
And back in third place, the driver of the number 22 Eternal Racing Hyperdrive Esports Toyota. Remind me again?
Cape Coral, Florida, which I don't know. I'll have to see if that's updated as he tries to hold on to it through the bus stop. Mostly does, but that'll be just straight back to pit lane.
Yeah, I finally updated that one there in my notes, but yes, the driver now residing out of Florida, originally Laverne, Tennessee, earlier in the season before he went on that little break for, I believe it was 4 races in a row. And eventually came back and was kind of able to save himself, staying about 20th in points to secure his playoff spot. Out of this season so far, the 3 roadside street course races, Kalinian is 2 for 3, with wins at Monza and Chicago back-to-back. And then Bryce Fontaine picked up the first one back at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal, on May 12th. So Fontaine will look to tie him in road/street course wins on the year at 2, and also go for a career win number 2.
Yeah, and it would be certainly a nice time for him to pick it up, especially with the impending point reset going into next week.
So now under 5 minutes to go, it's still Kalinian at the top. Now 6/10 over Corbin McCauley as Ty Higginbottom goes for spin. Raymond Heyman just had a moment there with the barrier.
And like I said, I knew there was 109 pace in there. And yeah, again, that time or that session best time being lowered by another 3.5 tenths. That's perhaps a shot across the bow of the rest of the field there from the 00.
CD Magram having a moment there as well. Currently 21 cars in this field. Not too bad for a track like this for a regular season finale. Nonetheless, usually on average as the season goes on, you kind of start to see the car count dip a little bit. The GTR 250 is when you really see everybody kind of come together for that first race. But as the season goes on, it kind of depends on how each driver's seasons are going and such, and time commitments as well, of course. Life is a bigger priority than this. We've seen it in many different cases.
As Wilson able to hang on to it there in the background. Well, maybe not so much.
all three Tornado Alley racing cars have been through something in this qualifying session. You'd have to hopefully think that there's not a continuation of what happened back last Monday. Again, as I said earlier, hopefully it was just a one-off. Again, the playoffs haven't started yet. But the thing is, too, you still want to kind of get some good runs going. You want to have that momentum, have kind of that, confident mindset going in because, again, knowing the playoff schedule that we have for this year, it's going to be a little crazy. That's probably an understatement.
And especially considering that it's only 2 races per round. You got to be on your game from jump, basically, that opening green flag. Like, there is no time to get yourself comfortable. No time really to establish. Well, you can establish a plan, but not as much time as maybe you'd like to execute it, shall we say. So
exactly.
Yeah, there's that's when things start to ratchet up a little bit, and we really separate the contenders from the pretenders in not so nice a way, I guess.
Just under 5 tenths between Kalinian and Muck. Oh no. Ouchie.
Oh, boy.
I mean, Magram is in 4th, so far,
Yes.
so good, at least for him. Higginbottom and Wilson are currently back in 15th and 18th for the car behind Wilson now. Just a friendly reminder before we introduce our starting lineup when this qualifying session comes to an end. Scott Bailey has an EOL penalty as of results from stuff that happened back at Darlington. So wherever he is currently in 10th, but that would be where he qualifies starting lineup wise. But before the green flag, he will have to go to the tail end of the field, and it's fair to say it's good to be serving this at least tonight before the playoffs come through, so that at least there's no that EOL case right there, and you can start where he qualified from. Unfortunately, he did lose 5 playoff points. That is not ideal, but again, the playoffs are a reset. He's a former series champion, so I mean, and the first one within the iRacing era, so he knows what to do. He has that potential to capitalize. Just kind of a waiting game there.
Yeah, to me, it's the loss of the playoff points that's the bigger story here, because I remember when it happened last week, like it was from what we had observed, the driver going in the opposite direction to get back into pit lane. So driving the wrong way on track, that's where that came from. So I wondered about it at the time. Ultimately, that suspicion was proven correct. And yeah, as the guy who was coming in second on playoff points accrued, those 5 points, they bring him back into the thick of the field here once we do that reset next week. So what that does is it just further gives Jordan Kalinian, who we're on with right about now, as if he needed any more cushion going into that reset. How about another 5 points for him?
At the moment, he's got, 40 playoff points, and then the next best is, if my memory serves correctly, 7?
Something to that effect. And yeah, if you were to end things now, Kalinian would get he's locked in the 15 bonus points for winning the regular season title, so that's 55 each round already. So, not a bad spot, to put it lightly.
We will not say locked into the championship 4. Way too early to say that.
Very.
But he has quite an advantage to make that possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where he could almost show up for only one race in each of the two, like one race per round, and still probably make his way there. But he's not the guy to take chances.
Nope. So right now, with just over half a minute to go in GTR 110 qualifying, right now Kalinian would be en route to breaking a tie between him and Corbin McCauley for most poles on the year. They have 5 each. So Kalinian would get to 6 if nobody else comes through with a miracle run.
Yeah, and he's looking to bat 500 in terms of race wins in the regular season, going for 7 out of 14 if he's able to pull that off.
Add on to that, too, he's won 6 of his 8 road/street course starts since he first joined us last season. The other wins for Charlie Sears and Bryce Fontaine, which, speaking of Charlie Sears, yeah, that's quite the tragic circumstances right there. Yeah, another unfortunate finish at Darlington last Monday night, and he is now with us racing tonight, so of course his playoff chances are done. You said earlier that means we're guaranteed someone new into the championship 4, which, yeah, let's call a spade. That's a fact. It's sad, but yeah.
It's just kind of how things went. And I mean, if Charlie Sears didn't have bad luck over the course of the regular season, he wouldn't have had any luck at all. We've said that a few times now, and obviously that's caused some season-long lingering effects, shall we say. And yeah, that's how we wind up here, and that's how we wind up with an opportunity for someone else to get in with a shot.
Indeed. So congratulations to Salisbury, North Carolina's Jordan Kalinian on scoring his 6th pole on the year. For all time, that would be
A lot.
13. He still has some ways to catch Corbin McCauley at 26, but I digress.
Again, he's done that in a season and a half.
Yeah.
Not 6 seasons, 5.5 seasons.
Something like that. So cars are going to line up here on the front stretch. We're going to introduce each and every one of these drivers that are going to do battle here tonight in the GTR 110 at Watkins Glen International, ahead of me going to the iRacing voice chat, giving the speech and the most famous words in motorsports to get these engines fired up. And again, having them stopped and getting it done and over with, it only gives them that one pace lap, and then they're going to go right around to the green flag, and it, doesn't have any issues with them, with their fuel, tire wear, whatever it may be.
Indeed so. Efficiency is always great on the road courses.
Absolutely, especially for a track like this here at Watkins Glen. So just waiting on one more driver, and that would be your pole sitter.
Yeah, just making the grand splashy entrance as we know Jordan Kalinian would love to do. Full sarcasm in that.
I have been told to reset a certain trading paint stop. There we go. Someone was looking at our stream and noticed their car didn't look right, so we did a little bit of had to do a little bit of a Control R.
Which is probably a reminder that I should do that on my side as well. Not that my side goes live, but it's just nice for me.
So as soon as Jordan Kalinian pops up, we will introduce these guys. Everyone else is in. So 21 cars, I believe 20 put up a lap. It was only Dan Cudmore that did not register a lap. There we go. I'm still under the weather. I have a cough drop now in my mouth. Hopefully that works.
Ah.
Yeah, I know I just about lost my voice calling Oysterbed Speedway races in real life this past Saturday night, so hopefully nothing too similar hopefully tonight. But anyways, let's get back on track, back on topic. Here is the starting lineup for tonight's 5th annual GTR 110 at the Glen. Let's get the music queued up. There we go. Starting lineup. I mean, we've seen this front row plenty of times this season, and since last season on the Cows Fried Chicken and Barbecue pole is the 00 of Jordan Kalinian, Salisbury, North Carolina, in the Toyota. Alongside him from Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, in the number 17 McCauley Racing Chevrolet is Corbin McCauley. Row number 2 has the 22 of Cape Coral, Florida's Bryce Fontaine for Hyperdrive Esports. Alongside him, multi-time race winner within the series at the Brickyard at one point, the number 1 of CD Magram out of Atlanta, Georgia for Tornado Alley E-Racing starts in 4th. And then Jose Mercado in the 41 GTR Motorsports Ford at Kissimmee, Florida, alongside rookie Blake Throneberg in the number 3 Backrow Motorsports Chevrolet out of Graham, North Carolina, with kind of a sort of a Dale Earnhardt Wrangler-esque sort of a paint scheme going on there. At least that's what my eyes see. Next row has the 64 of former series champion Darcy Ford at Harrington, Prince Edward Island for 519 Atlantic Motorsports, and alongside him, your winner from last Monday night at Darlington Raceway, locking himself into the playoffs, is Justin Belmonte. The number 60 car comes from Patrick, New York, driving for GTR Motorsports. To round out the top 10, we have the 7 of Andy Hurdle out of Dayton, Ohio for 519 Atlantic Motorsports. You see there Jordy, Darcy Ford, Andy Hurdle, pair of drivers right there on that cut line, one driver ahead of the other, bumper to start this one off, and then to round out the top 10 and to get to Jordy for the rest of this field, the number 4 is Mason Tomlinson at Eudora, Kansas for Hyperdrive Esports. He starts 10th.
Not to mention Jose Mercado ahead of Darcy Ford's bumper to get further into that bubble mix. You see Scott Bailey listed there 11th on the grid in his number 48 blue collar Chevy out of Allendale, Michigan. Of course, as noted, he does have the EOL going into tonight, so he'll drop to the back. On his outside, starting 12th, car 12, that'd be the back row Motorsports Toyota of Mike Marini out of Thunder Bay, Ontario. And we move along to row 7 now, where we find the number 21 Tornado Alley Racing Toyota of Adam Wilson out of Laurel, Delaware, starting 13th. He needs a win to get into the playoffs, as does the man beside him, the number 13 blue collar of Jared Ireland out of Eudora, Kansas, as well, starting 14th. On to row 8, where we find a man who's already locked in, the number 85 of Raymond Hanneman, his Ford out of Ottawa, Ontario, unofficially for Eternal Racing. He's got another Tornado Alley driver on his outside. That'll be Season 3 champ, the number 97 Toyota of Ty Higginbotham out of Kansas City, Missouri, starting 16th. Moving on to row 9 now, we have the number 15 Storm Surge Esports Toyota of Kyle Knoll out of Wendell, North Carolina. Another guy on the outside looking in right now as it relates to playoffs, as is Mario Ercolani, the number 29 Toyota driving for GTR out of Parsonsfield, Maine, starting this one 18th. We move on to row 10, where we find the recently officially retired from work Tom Janikowski in the number 93 Chevy out of Appleton, Wisconsin, starting 19th. Congrats on that anniversary, Tommy. And on his outside, the number 25 Ford of Matt McDonald out of Calgary, Alberta, will start this one 20th. And rounding out the field, as you mentioned earlier, the one driver not to set a time in qualifying, that'd be the number 2 Penske North Ford of Dan Cudmore out of Stanchill, PEI. Of course, he is the series founder.
Yes, sir, he is. So there it is, your starting lineup for tonight's event. 21 of the cars and stars of Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing, ready to do battle here for 45 laps at the Watkins Glen International. So now I'm going to head to the iRacing voice chat live here on this broadcast. Quick little speech. I'm going to get the most famous words in motorsports across to them to get these engines fired up for tonight's race. Alrighty, gentlemen. Do we have a copy?
Yep, gotcha.
Try that one more time. I don't know if that came through my headphones. Got a copy?
Yep, loud and clear. We heard you, Regan.
Perfect, I got that one. Alrighty. Gentlemen, welcome to round number 14 on the year for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. It's the GTR 110 at the Glen. Thanks to GTR Motorsports for presenting tonight's event. It's the regular season finale. We got drivers going for victories, for strong finishes to get some momentum going into the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. And then we all know about that playoff bubble that is right there for a couple of names throughout the field. So best of luck. Lots of storylines hopefully to come out of this one. Put on a show for the audience. And with all that being said, gentlemen, start your engines. Always lovely to hear Jordy here. The fiery, thunderous roar of these engines, of these iRacing next-gen Gen 7 cars. Ready to do battle here at Watkins Glen International here for the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. It'll be just one pace lap. We're going to go green right this time by. For the race analysis, we have 45 laps on the race length. Stages are 10, 10, and 25. Pit road speed is 40 miles per hour. Fuel window is somewhere around 15 to 17 laps. Again, there are drivers that will come in either earlier or even try to stay it all out even past that window. Again, lots of different strategies at play. That's just how long the fuel could possibly last, just around that little range there. Of course, reigning race winner from last year is the 00 of Jordy Kalinian, starting on the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue pole. Again, congratulations to him. And we'll see if we'll be offering another congratulations and having another post-race winner interview with him later tonight, but let's not jump the gun just yet. Jordy, you got anything here as these guys roll down the backstretch for one final time ahead of the green flag?
I mean, I think you have to love the fact that we've got the three drivers that were mainly focused on bubble-wise running nose to tail of one another here to start. So there's no secrets as to what needs to happen, no secrets as to where anybody is, no lack of awareness. It's, literally just take care of the competition in front of you and, do as much as you can to get up the field, because as we've said many times, this is the last shot, especially for that trio.
It's the last chance to book your way into the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. We already have just over half the field settled, but we have a bunch of other spots left to go. Will we have another playoff bubble buster like we had just in Belmonte last Monday night at Darlington Raceway? Darlington Raceway was its own different species, but tonight it's Watkins Glen International, one of the premier road course facilities in all of North America, particularly the United States. iRacing safety car, pace car will roll off to pit road. It'll be Jordan Kalinian, Cora McCauley leading the field to green, and the GTR 110 is underway.
And perhaps not surprisingly, a great jump from Kalinian off the line. McCauley trying to tuck into that slipstream. Fontaine might have a move on for second, and indeed he does get through.
3 wide through the 90, as they call it in turn 1 there. Lots of door-to-door action between you was Andy Hurdle, Darcy Ford, and Mason Tomlinson. They were 3 wide for a couple of seconds there, but they all single file out. Bryce Fontaine has made his way to second down the back stretches. They make their way to the inner loop bus stop chicane.
Nice start for Jose Mercado to get himself into the top 5. Yikes,
Kalinian had a moment. He had a slip. Fontaine's going to try to take advantage on the bottom through the outer loop through turn 5 and onward.
Yeah, but that wide track out's going to allow Kalinian to retain the position. That was something I had noted during our hot lap there, is the fact that you do have that outside. Fontaine had the preferred inside line going through that carousel to get into that spot, as we've got, who's that, Belmonte, I guess, running wide there.
Yeah, a couple of drivers might have had a moment there, and I think Kyle Knoll as well, as Kalinian will lead the first lap. Fontaine just ahead of McCauley.
But yeah, just to finish that thought, not unlike how you would approach the 90 that our drivers just came out of there a moment ago. You have the ability, of course, to track out a little bit wider, not as much of a concern about track limits at Watkins Glen, particularly in those sections. So ultimately being able to build up that speed is what allowed Kalinian to retain the lead in that part of the track on the opening lap.
Car through the grass. Mike Marini falls back a bunch of positions. He comes to a halt. We'll get back in behind Cudmore, drop him back to 21st. Not ideal for one of those drivers on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, he was very much in a must-win situation anyway, and that start that takes him down to the tail of the field now, certainly not helpful.
Belmonte gets ahead of the wall for 13. Kalinian starting to put that gap now back ahead of Fontaine, almost a second between them.
Yeah, a little bit of an interesting start, to say the very least. Nothing locked in by any means, but yeah, you mentioned now Jordan Kalinian. It feels like he's starting to push things out a little bit here, but still very early on in the stage, so lots at play. Nothing in the way of pit stops, obviously, but yeah, we'll see if anyone's able to pick up the pace here over the next 7 or 8 laps.
Coming to lap 4 now, 3 laps complete. Again, first 2 stages at 10 laps each. So very, very short lengths. Again, actually, stage 2 will technically be under 10 laps because, again, everyone will have to make their pit stops and still do another lap or two around the track under yellow flag laps. Again, for a road/street course, there are only the stage cautions. We don't have those automatic full course yellows in case there is an incident. So, essentially, if you crash out, there's really no luck.
As we see Ercolani running really wide in the background there through the 90, able to hang on to it. But yeah, the fact that these two stages are very short, these first two particularly, I wonder, well, I'd imagine there'd be a short fuel situation between stages 1 and 2, not necessarily filling up the full way, given that it'll only be most likely 6 green flag laps, somewhere in that ballpark once everything settles. So figure, we're looking at that 15 lap fuel window, I believe we said, correct? So
yeah, 15 to 17.
Add enough to get through that next half a dozen laps, really, and you know what? Save yourself a little bit of time on pit stops, maybe gain some track position as a result. You got to pull out all the stops, especially if your position in the playoffs isn't secured.
Now, we've seen many of these road and street course races where Jordan Killian just pulls away from the field, but we've seen in the races this year, of course, Killian having won the last 2. Fontaine picking up the first one. Bryce Fontaine being one of those certain guys that never allows anyone, especially the 00, to ever pull away so quickly. I believe at Chicago it was only 4 seconds separating the two of them. I mean, sure, 4 seconds is still some decent time to make up, but I mean, we've had times before where Killian was probably like, I don't know, a minute ahead?
Yeah, I mean, we've had situations maybe not as extreme as some of our other series where, and that's Ercolani off there once again. Let's take a look. Yeah, just running through the infield here, the bus stop, it would appear. Can't find the braking points, and yep, trip through the grass. Easy enough to have happen.
So he comes back out in 21st. Mike Marini's already made his way back up a couple positions. Yep. Now into 18th. So in terms of the bubble, Jose Mercado is currently 6th. Andy Hurdle's 8th. Darcy Ford is 10th. We have a lot of cars kind of nearly in a snake there towards the middle of the field. Not too much side by side, but a lot of these guys are still relatively close. Again, it's just the first stage, though. It's kind of the time to get well, not the kind of...
Or not.
Maybe the time to get whatever just happened there done and over with and then figure things out later on. Although that left front does seem to be a little rubbed up for the 25.
Yeah, we'll have to take another look at what happened there. Just running wide through the 90, it would appear. Lost it on the curb.
Yeah, that curb. Let the back end give out.
And we saw a fair amount of that during practice and qualifying as well. That rear end just kind of acting up on a lot of these cars, as Mercado was briefly going up into the top 5, I thought.
He is in the top 5 now.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure if it was a replay I was seeing or what was going on. But yeah, nice run there on that start-finish straight to get up into the top 5, get himself what would amount to another stage point.
Jared Ireland back in 11th. Again, we were talking earlier about the heartbreak he had to endure, falling just short of behind Justin Belmonte for the Darlington win last Monday. Ireland right now, pace-wise, would definitely need a couple miracles to go his way if he still wants a chance to make it into the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs again. One of those drivers where attendance hasn't been great. Again, missing races does not help one bit. I mean, Justin Belmonte, kind of in a similar situation, not near as bad. But again, though, he still got that win. And, I mean, for the races that he has missed, the ones that he has been at, the number of points, the amount of points that he built up before he got that win last Monday was crazy.
Yeah, he's been on it basically throughout the season whenever he's been around. So not really a whole lot of argument as to whether or not the 60's deserving of being in this playoff field. He's certainly more than proven that in my eyes. And like I said, good to see him back. And you could hear the relief in his voice too when we chatted with him in the post-race interview there last week. And, you know, I found that really insightful from him as well, really, to kind of get inside his head for, you know, different processes, different approaches that he took to making that happen. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that kind of analytical mind come through again here once we get into the playoffs.
Now, heading into a race and during a race, we can judge and assume all we want what might be going through a driver's head during a race and during certain situations, maybe even an incident. But it's not until, especially if it's a feel-good story like we had last Monday, you don't exactly know until you get to that post-race winner interview. So whenever you have those feel-good stories, that's what you kind of want to get to with the drivers. And what we heard, as you said, from Belmonte last Monday, yes, the sigh of relief, and again, able to go into this one where he could still grab a couple extra points, as I said earlier, to you know, make him maybe a tad bit better going to the playoffs. But I mean, just the win alone speaks for itself and helps enough in a way.
Well, the thing is, he had actually grabbed a couple of stage wins over the course of the season, just didn't have the win to go with it to lock himself in. So suddenly, he finds himself in a little bit better position, and then obviously, once tonight's finished, we'll be able to factor in regular season point bonuses for the top 10 to go into each round. Is, yikes, a little bit of teammate action there. Ford trying to maybe get Hurdle a little loose to get some position.
Those are your cut line drivers right there.
They 100% are.
Oh, Hurdle had to wiggle the wheel there just a little bit. He goes in behind for his teammate. You know what? This is just like real life too, because with Bubba Wallace picking up the win in the Brickyard 400, oh, geez, Ford.
Oh, man.
Really trying to shut the door on the 7. Oh, he locked up a little bit. That's going to allow Jared Ireland to take advantage. We have multiple drivers in the middle of the pack situation right here, all trying. You know, playoff, trying to be that bubble burster, trying to hang on, whatever it may be. And then you got the guy who did bust the bubble last Monday right in behind them. But as I was saying back on Sunday in real life, Bubba Wallace winning the Brickyard 400 in the NASCAR Cup Series, locking himself into the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Now with that, now having that playoff spot locked up for him, in real life it's also a teammate thing. In 16th and 17th, Chris Buescher just over 40 points above Ryan Preece with our RFK Racing teammates.
Yeah, at this point, teammates, that absolutely does not matter, because obviously they're not sharing that seat. So, you know, it's everyone for themselves at this point, and we're going to get a bit of a drag race here to the line for 9th and 10th. Well, 10th and 11th, I suppose.
Going through the cars probably was not a good idea there, because the stage winner graphic was still up. But you're all stage winners, sure. But anyways, the 00 Jordan Kalinian picks up the stage win. In terms of how many he has gotten this year, if I do the...
That's 11 from my
11.
count.
The next best is 4. Just say. I mean, you know how far up he is in playoff points. Then there's stage wins. Yep. There's race wins. He's just piling them all up.
I mean, we've been saying this the entire season, so it's not like we can act surprised by any of this.
So by the looks of it, your top 10 for Stage 1 would be Jordan Kalinian, Bryce Fontaine, Corbin McCauley, C.D. Mangrum, Jose Mercado, Blake Thronberg, Mason Tomlinson, Raymond Hanneman, Darcy Ford, and And Andy Hurdle rounding up the top 10. Jordy, I can only imagine you're doing the real-time math and standing stuff at the moment.
I got it.
Perfect.
Yeah, so obviously we saw how close Andy Hurdle and Darcy Ford were racing each other. Ultimately, that does only account for a 1-point change right at the bubble, standings-wise, as Darcy Ford has now cut the gap to 10 points between himself and Andy Hurdle for that last spot. Jose Mercado, by virtue of finishing 5th, he's given himself a little bit of wiggle room here, plus 16 to the good. And then, outside of that, your next contender is Kyle Knoll at 48 on the bad side. So really, if you're not in the playoff picture right now, the only way really to remedy it is with a win, I would say, unless something happens to either Hurdle or Mercado to allow Ford to move up the standings a little bit and create a little bit more intrigue. But right now, ultimately it's win and you're in, I would say. But, decent results from the 3 guys that we've been highlighting over the course of the evening. And on we go.
So while we are under this stage yellow, we might as well go side by side for just a little bit, since stage 2 is not going to be it's going to go by relatively quick, so we might as well be here for the whole thing there. So we will quickly shout out some sponsors and partners through our side by side. You're listening and watching to live coverage of the 5th annual GTR 110 at Watkins Glen, round number 14 for season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. It's the regular season finale.
Rescues, and great organization, and I want Mark to tell us a little bit about responsible ownership in all pets, but especially a little guy that you have here. Could you tell us about Arthur?
Arthur here, he was born a perfectly normal red-eared slider. He has what's known as metabolic bone disease. So he was, over his lifetime, denied proper nutrients and calcium and the basic necessities that a turtle needs to survive and grow properly. So with the compression on his internal organs, this will unfortunately cut his life short. But for now, he enjoys a really great life with the Little Rescue as our premier animal ambassador for animal cruelty and show people what not to do with the turtle.
it's organizations like this that need support. I mean, sure, we all have dog rescues, cat rescues, but when you see a guy like Arthur here, you know, all pets need great care, and this is what the Canadian Pet Expo is about, okay? So come on down, learn about Mark and what he does with Arthur, and support such a great cause, okay? Thanks, Mark.
Welcome back to live coverage of the GTR 110 at the Glen at Watkins Glen International. Again, round number 14 on the year for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Of course, we had our shout-outs there to some sponsors and partners for this season. Of course, thanks very much to all of them. We'll get to a bunch more later on. But, of course, under this stage yellow flag, we just had pit stops. And a lot of strategy at play, Jordy. Might as well maybe explain a little bit.
Yeah, so we saw some drivers stay out. We'll see if any of them are able to make the stretch on fuel here. So we see Jared Ireland opting for track position, which is notable because, again, he's outside the playoff picture right now. Scott Bailey also staying out. Corbin McCauley opted to not take tires, which is what had him jump up to third. Well, I guess he finished stage 1 in third, but he was the first of the drivers who pitted to make his way out, I guess is where I'm going with that. Thronberg, same idea. Hurdle rounds out the top 5. Darcy Ford there in 6th, so not a whole lot of separation there between our bubble drivers. Again, it might not matter if Ireland's able to make this strategy play work. And yeah, as a result, we see our stage winner, Jordan Kalinian, presumably having taken full service, drop down to 8th to begin this stage. But the way we've seen him drive on road courses, not necessarily worried about that. But we got a lot of intrigue here at the head of the field, so I'm looking forward to seeing this pace car getting the hell out of the way.
Indeed, so interesting to see up here. Jared Ireland, could he maybe pull something off here, even though it's a 14-lap stint compared to everyone else that pitted? Green flag back in the air for stage number 2, and it's only 6 laps.
Yeah, so this is very much a sprint as Ireland's able to take the 90 easily, not tracking out as wide as maybe you would under normal racing conditions. Obviously, track position being paramount here off the restart, but how about McCauley getting right on that back bumper of the 13, looking to find a way around the outside, coming onto the straight, but not necessarily finding it.
He's giving him a look there. Might giving him a tap. Oh, his right side tires were right on the curb. He had to back off and go back in behind the 13.
Yeah, I wonder if there was even some grass at play there. So McCauley really pushing it there, and we'll see if he's able to make a move here. If not, we'll see if he's able to tuck in on the start-finish straight.
Ford looking underneath. Fontaine for 6th. Stays off as Adam Wilson goes off and into the barrier there in the final corner.
Yeah, another guy very much on
the
the
Darcy Ford's
right.
around. In the 90. Not the car, the turn.
No, very much not the 90, but we'll see if his chances go down significantly from 90 here, as we'll see what happened, whether it's self-inflicted or he was tight there with Kalinian coming through.
Was that a little later touchy? Oh, neck code.
No. Yeah, that was always going to be tight there between those two, but a lot of work to do now for both Mercado and Ford. In Mercado's case, he'll be happy to have Ford behind him as their 16th and 17th, because if Mercado's not getting points, it makes it a lot easier to swallow. Oh, man, what a wobble there from McCauley coming out of that last turn with Scott Bailey all over the back of him. And Fontaine down the inside of Thronberg. Don't tell me this race doesn't mean anything to those guys.
Jared Ireland still holding his own pretty well here, but Corbin McCauley has been hounding him for laps on end since we first started this second stage. Again, it is a must-win situation, so if he were able to hang on somehow, then still, it would have to be the race win later that he would have to pick up. It wouldn't be a stage win. I mean, maybe those points could help if he later does get to the race win, but we're not there yet. Oh, there comes Bryce Fontaine.
Indeed so, and notably...
Oh, no!
Oh,
In the wall,
boy.
both cars around!
Yikes. That was always going to be rough, but that gives Ireland a ton of breathing room at the head of the field. And notable, well, I was about to say, wait a minute, Ireland pits. He couldn't make it.
Oh, yeah, it's the end of the fuel window, so Jordan Kalinian's to the race lead. CD
Man,
Magram's
oh,
to
man.
pit road.
Everything
Bailey?
happened.
Ireland to pit road.
Yeah, those are the guys who stayed out. Like we said, 15 to 17, and 17 absolutely nailed it. Well, car 17 got absolutely nailed into that corner, but that's another story for a replay. But yeah, in terms of mileage, it was a fair gamble from Jared Ireland, positioning-wise, but just couldn't get it done as we see. Yeah, yikes.
Yep, bump, and sent the 17 right around, Button Fontaine as well. And then later on we saw Jared Ireland eventually have to come down pit road, and a bunch of other guys came in too. Yes,
Yep,
Scott
just
Bailey,
a little bit of
Blake
chaos.
Gets in, yeah. And the front Fontaine just go around again?
I'm not 100% sure. I was focused on closing the pit lane there, which, you know, good thing it's closed now, because if the drivers who came in had tried to come in a lap later, they would have been up a creek without a paddle, shall we say.
That's almost a second between the 0-0, and that would be Mason Tomlinson in second. Justin Belmonte third. Raymond Handyman's currently fourth. They're coming to the white flag for stage 2. And Hurdle fifth. Here's Higginbottom, Knoll. McCauley's still hanging around up there in eighth. Again, all those cars that came down pit road was able to kind of help him make up those spots. And Fontaine in behind him.
Now, what will be interesting, you would have to think the guys who stretched out that stint, you would have to think they're going to go for track position here and not come in during the stage caution. So you would think that they'll shuffle back up to the head of the field to start stage 3. And if they're able to conserve, long enough, maybe there's a window to get back on terms with everybody else and really have these next 25 laps, the final 25 laps of the regular season, really mean something.
Absolutely, and from what we can tell here, stage wins supposedly mean a lot for this guy. Again, if he can make it there. Knock on wood.
Well, he's got a couple of corners here as we, oh man!
That's all the way back for 17. That's 35 and a half seconds back of the 0-0. Who's now going to come to the line for stage 2.
Yeah, clean sweep there once again for the 0-0. And is that? It is, yeah.
So 2 for 2. Now just a race win left. And now, even though, yes, it's kind of it still continues to be that Jordan Kalinian show when it comes to the road and street courses, and every now and then you might have your different stage winner, or of course a different race winner, like Bryce Fontaine back in Montreal. Still though, you got to focus on the best of the rest there too, because I mean, a name like Mason Tomlinson being up there for second is quite impressive. Again though, of course, all these drivers do want to go for the win. They know, they do have that awareness that Jordan Kalinian is Jordan Kalinian, but still though, plenty of interesting battles and comers and goers throughout the rest of the field thus far. And we saw, again, all the strategy at play with Jared Ireland staying out and starting up front for the start of Stage 2. And then when we saw what happened with the 17, the 22, eventually, right after that, Ireland and a bunch of other guys came down, caused a bunch of cycling back and forth throughout the rest of this field. Macaulay Fontaine still able to finish top 10 in Stage 2. So a lot of stuff happening there, even with Jordan Kalinian still going for 2 for 2.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were helped by that cycling that did happen with the guys who stayed out. But ultimately, good job for them to be able to recoup those points. And now the big winner here in terms of the overall bubble is one Andy Hurdle, which I'll get into here momentarily, which I can get into now that I've got it updated live. So Hurdle, through all that chaos, winds up finishing 5th in the stage, so that's 6 points for him. Mercado able to get a bite of the top 10 there, grabbing that last point. Nothing for Darcy Ford, though, so the bubble is now 16. That's the gap between Hurdle and Ford for 12th and 13th. Mercado plus 17 to the good as it stands right now, so given that there's only 21 cars in the field, if you're Darcy Ford, this is must win. I would suggest no questions asked.
As we are under this second and final stage, Yellow looking into our interactive live chat on YouTube. Of course, some of the usual suspects, JD Magram cheering on CD Magram, go figure. Natasha's cheering on Raymond Hanneman, the 85. He is in 4th, so a solid Stage 2 ending for him there in the internal racing Ford. And then a Ford ahead of him. And in behind.
But again, the focus is on a different kind of Ford here in the headlines here this evening, as the Season 2 champ is going to be looking for one last gasp here to retain his playoff streak. He's been in all 5 seasons. That's in jeopardy here over the next 23 laps. And we did have a couple of cars stay out. Galenian looks like he's stayed out.
Interesting.
The 3 Eternal guys staying out, so that's Tomlinson, Hanneman, and Fontaine. So you would have to think it'd be full service here for most of the field.
I think Mary Ercolani might have been the only one to take 2 tires.
And I mean, he's another guy that's outside the picture, so why not throw something against the wall here right about now?
Or no, it was just fuel, never mind.
Okay, we'll have to see how long the tires are able to last, assuming that, he would have changed over at the end of Stage 1. We don't immediately have the tire allocations within our live timing. We have the stints, but there's no guarantee the tires were changed.
So I'd say one more lap around, and then we'll get back to green flag racing in the 5th annual GTR 110 at the Glen.
Yeah, and that'll leave us with 21 green flag laps to contest, which, as we saw during stage 2, that'll mean 1 green flag pit stop. And the lights go out. And through all that, I think we might have a lucky turtle in the form of Matt McDonald based on the time.
Wait for it.
Yeah, you typically wait for the turtle, but it's always worth it.
Indeed, the little rescue reptile rescue lucky turtle, Audrey, courtesy of Mark Roulette. Not with us tonight, and obviously not making the playoffs, but I don't know, the best of the rest is there.
Yep.
And always a pleasure to have him and everyone, his groups supporting us here within the E-Motorsports Network on iRacing. So hopefully we'll see him back come playoff time, whenever the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs and also the Best of the Rest Challenge both begin next Monday night at Bristol Motor Speedway.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're sponsoring one of those races.
Let's go and fact check that. Yes, the Audrey's Legacy 200 at Dover.
Man, oh man, that'll be some nice timing, certainly.
Yes, that'll be the first race of the round of 10, which then leads into Talladega.
Oh, fun.
Short track and super speedway. You go from possibly the fastest short track, one of the fastest short tracks on the calendar, to then the fastest track on the calendar.
Well, how many times have I said that, you know, to win this championship, it really does take a complete driver, and, you know, those are just about polar opposites in terms of track setups outside of road and street courses. But, you know, that's not our focus tonight. We still got some laps to put down here.
So yeah, back to green flag racing for the third and final stage. You cars, you see it visually, it kind of looks like they're all over the, as I'm saying. Noel about turned Hagemon and McCauley, everyone keeps it going.
Yeah, that was hilarious, nearly seeing the Eternals 3 wide.
Oh, McCauley might have given Noel a bit of a shove there in towards the back of the field. Oh, CD Magrum about giving the block there to someone. That was Andy Hurdle. Everyone will have to single file out through the... Oh, everyone's getting through the grass. Magrum spins. So does Belmonte.
And
in
he'll
there,
back
Ercolani, Mercado, Higginbottom.
Ford caught up in that too, as he had to check up behind Mercado.
Oh, Cudmore Wilson spinning too through the outer loop. It's a trash heap.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an ideal start, we'll say. Obviously, you know, we've got lots of laps to go to make some of this up. Dan Cudmore facing the wrong way there. Looks like he'll be the first retirement of the night.
So we got a replay. We'll start back in the first turn where it kind of seemed like things... Yeah, we got a little bumper and door happy. It started there with Noel, Hageman, McCauley there through the first corner and then making the way up down the straightaway towards the bus stop chicane. We saw C.D. Mangrum give quite the block to Andy Hurdle. And then, yeah, Ireland was through the grass up there. Then Balamonte spins Mangrum, and then in behind them, a bunch of cars just getting collected, going all over the place. Okay, yeah, Marini got into Wilson, and then Cudmore looks like, yeah, he had nowhere to go. Ford got into him. That's not going to be good for Darcy Ford right there in terms of the cut line.
Well, no, I was saying he had gotten caught up behind Mercado there in the carousel as he had gotten wrapped up in all that too. So, yeah, not ideal to say the very least. And yeah, as I'm looking back at it, I think that block that you referenced from Mangrum on Hurdle, that would have compromised his entry into the bus stop chicane, because you want to be on that left side of the track, Mangrum firmly on the right, so it's hard to take that first part of the chicane properly. And yeah, just looking back at it, lost the back end going through the back half of that particular corner complex.
Oh, Mike Marini goes around. Turn 1.
And that might be the end of his night as well. And based on the manual disconnection, I can confirm that.
Went a little too far ahead there trying to get to this replay here. Yeah, Hanneman with a couple bumps there through the grass, through the inner loop. That allows Bryce Fontaine to get by. So 22 to second, and we're right back to a 0-0 and 22, first and second. Shocker.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of would have been how things were drawn up. Maybe not necessarily the pathway, but, you know, not an unexpected outcome here. As it looks like Cudmore is actually rejoining, so I may have been premature on suggesting he was out. We'll see if I'm saying the same about Marini here in a moment.
Now, do note, too, there's 18 laps to go, or I guess 17 and a half at this point. You got the top 4 here all in 15-lap stints, so no doubt that they're going to come in at some point soon. Then you have 3 drivers at 10-lap stints. Everyone else is at 5, except for Janikowski at 16, then Mangrum's at 10, Wilson's at 4. And then, yeah, that's all your lead lap cars. And then Dan Cudmore's actually back onto the track 2 laps down. So, lots potentially at play here.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that group that stayed out, if they go like another lap or 2, they'll be fine to make it home at that point. So not really a whole lot to worry about with that group, just a matter of timing really in terms of the rest of the field being able to execute to see if they can mount a challenge. And yeah, down to 16 laps to go at this point. I would suggest probably next time around we'll see it. I'll keep an eye on the iRacing chat to see if we get any indicators on that.
Yeah, just under 4 seconds between the 0-0 and the 22. Raymond Hanneman. So decent distance between all that top three. And then meanwhile, you got about 4 cars going for 4th. As I say that, Jared Ireland goes up far through the inner loop. That's going to drop him all the way back. Not to 7th. Still hangs on to 6th. He'll pop in behind Scott Bailey, who's doing pretty solid since that EOL. He had to start the tail end of the field. He's up into 5th. So not bad.
And I mean, not necessarily a surprise either. I've mentioned the fact that he's a guy who tends to play the long game, as we've got a pit stop here. Looked like Thronberg was in and someone else ahead of him. Tomlinson, I will suggest, as Hanneman runs wide through the 90.
Oh, there's multiple cars to pit road. Thronberg, Tomlinson, Adam Wilson's in. Although you can only imagine for the 21, knowing what happened earlier, the damage time is probably
not ideal, to say the very least.
Kalinian and Fontaine have now been going for 18 laps, so would it be this time that they come in? Yes, it would be. Kalinian comes in. Fontaine does as well. Scott Bailey, Jared Ireland, a couple other guys about to cycle through here up to the top.
I'd imagine Hanneman in this time. Oh, no, he stays out.
No. Andy Hurdle goes in. Kyle Knoll stays out. So Scott Bailey inherits the lead now with 14 laps remaining. McCauley stays out. I mean, he's on a 9-lap stint, so is Knoll, Belmonte, and them, so... And Jared Ireland's about to take the race lead he just did over Scott Bailey through the S's.
Well, I wonder if that's a rare good buddy move here between blue-collar racing teammates. Bailey perhaps providing a bit of a buffer. Granted, I know after the penalty incurred, Bailey would obviously love to get those 5 points back in some form, but if he can somehow get someone he can race with also into the playoff picture, I think, I mean, we talked about Bailey playing the long game on track. How about a long strategic game in terms of, you know, having the opportunities to execute later on when it really matters?
There goes Hanneman to pit road. McCauley to 4th. Belmonte's 5th. So Knoll up to 3rd. As they get past CD Magrum and put him a lap down now with 13 laps remaining. So as this all continues to wind down, we might as well get something done and over with the course as we shed out some more sponsors and partners of the E-Motorsports Network and the NASCAR Series Season 6 on iRacing. Of course, a big thanks to Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue, GTR Motorsports, Nordic Aluminium, Tornado Alley E-Racing, Zesty Paws, Amara Parker Racing, Valvoline Instant Oil Change, Little Rescue, Reptile Rescue, RepuLinks, Pizza Main, Audrey's Legacy, Blackfly, and of course, powering all these broadcast camera angles, these packages here on the iRacing service that we are so grateful to have now with this transition that we continue to have since 2023, season number 4. TrackCams22.com, thank you very much for providing us with what you're seeing with all these angles and everything for this live production as Scott Bailey now heads to pit road. We will have all of this on without the voices. We'll stick to the car sounds, but you'll still watch and witness what is all going on with all these strategies at play coming down to the end of this one with the TrackCams22.com. Crank it up. once again, thanks to TrackCams22.com for powering the Crank It Up and providing us with all these iRacing camera packages that you see for each and every one of our live productions of the E-Motorsports Network on iRacing. And, yeah, Jordy, we just noticed there a 41 of Jose Mercado apparently in trouble.
Well, I see a disconnection, certainly. I'm going back on the replays right well.
Oh, no.
How did that happen? I wonder if that's just a short shift. I'm looking at the replays here now. See if anything pops up for me. I've got him coming through the bus stop. There was some damage to the front already. And he'd gone wide to let Fontaine through the carousel. But yeah, obviously it goes without saying, this has major playoff ramifications. Yeah, just engine let's go coming into that left-hander.
Well, I think if my memory serves correctly, that incident earlier that we saw there through the outer loop, he had, I would imagine the damage came from that.
Yeah, then you see the, black smoke makes its presence felt. Not long after. So this potentially hands a golden opportunity to one Darcy Ford, who's currently running fourth. He might be able to save himself here, as that's a few drivers in, Ford among them, Macaulay and Belmonte.
So yeah, Kalinian re-inherits the race lead now with 6 laps to go. Multiple cars to pit road on 17-lap stints now. Higginbottom's still staying out for another lap, so Bryce Fontaine eventually, I'd say, will go to second.
So if we go ahead and punch in a 17-point finish for Mercado, finishing in 20th, which is, or 19th, I guess, with 2 other retirements. So that's another point. Yeah, we'll just have to see how this ultimately will work itself out. Hurdle currently running 11th, so that would mean 26 points for him if it was to end as it is right now. And yeah, Darcy Ford running 6th, so that would be 31 points. He would still be 11 points, or he would ultimately be 4 points short of Jose Mercado if it was to end this way. If Ford can get up to second, he can tie.
Well then.
And he's going to have...
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, why is my timing all funky here? Must just be off from the pit stops, because I see you have him running 11th, which makes sense since he'd just been in for the pit stop.
Just under 10 seconds between Jordan Kalini and Bryce Fontaine. Now they're both on 9-lap stints. They'll be coming to 4 laps to go. Jared Ireland is in third on a 6-lap stint. He is just under 8 seconds back of the 22 for second. So I'd say, barring any miracles or anything here, Ireland's going to come up just short, I'd say.
Well, I mean, anyone outside the top 12 will come up just short. Yeah. I say, if Darcy Ford could somehow pull out a miracle, but he's 22 seconds back of second place as it stands right now. And with 4 laps to go, that's looking very unlikely, obviously. So, yeah, looks like, you know, the that first stage for Jose Mercado where he finished 5th, that is going to prove crucial because he grabbed 6 points there. And if he hadn't, he may well have been on the outside looking in, but it looks like he'll have just enough to survive. That, on the other hand, is a guy who has absolutely no issues with surviving at the moment. As we see that familiar double-digit lead on the road courses as he's looking to make it 3 out of 4.
Yes. So you have Killeen and Fountain Ireland still your top 3. It's Blake Thronberg, 4th, Scott Bailey. Looking to come through for a top 5 finish, but so is Raymond Haneyman. They're side-by-side coming out of the final corner with Corbin McCauley in behind them. It could be 3 cars trying to fight for a top 5 finish. And I mean, knowing the results of Corbin McCauley this season, his last top 5 was Texas when he finished behind Raymond Haneyman back a couple months back. And he's got someone ahead of him who he's Bailey's a familiar competitor from a couple past battles for wins as well.
Yeah, well, 3 different championship 4s. So
yes.
There's also that. But yeah, barring anything unforeseen, like you said before, I think we have our 12 pretty much locked in at this point. Just got to get to the checkered flag still.
Popsicle sticks were in the air there just a couple seconds ago. 2 laps to go for Jordan Kalinian, looking for win number 7 on the year and looking to make it 3 wins within 4 races since Indianapolis. It would be 4 within 6 since Monza. And yet again, another road/street course win on the year. That would be back-to-back, of course. Monza, Chicago, now possibly here at Watkins Glen. And looking for career win number 15. That would put him 5 away from Corbin McCauley all time. And there's Corbin McCauley where he's been here since the very beginning, season 1. And then there's Jordan Kalinian, who's only been here since season 5.
I mean, that's just... It's astounding what he's been able to do in a season and 2/3 at this point is... My God, that flag man's getting a workout.
I was just going to say... But this is one final workout to the checker flag for the 00 in the regular season for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. The white flag is out for the GTR 110. And it's all Jordan Kalinian bearing anything catastrophic.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, well, it is just a matter of keeping it between the lines at this point. And with that kind of a lead, really no reason to rush it.
I mean, how many playoff points could it possibly be at this point? He entered in with 40, 2 stage wins on the night.
Add another 5 for this win. Plus 15 for the regular season title. He will start the next round on 2,062 points.
Yep, there you go. Already the regular season champion a couple of weeks back, officially. And now he'll end it off as with yet again another win on the year going to the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. The GTR 110 goes to the 00 of Jordan Kalinian out of Salisbury, North Carolina. Back-to-back years with a win at Watkins Glen.
And I mean, Ted Williams, eat your heart out here. Kalinian batting 500 on the season in terms of victories, 7 out of 14 as Fountain crossed the line second. Ireland, valiant effort to claim a podium position. Won't be enough to get him into the playoff picture, though.
Blake Thronberg, Raymond Haneyman with top 5s, a pair of rookies right there. Scott Bailey will come home 6th after the OL penalty. Corbin McCauley 7th. We saw him there. We saw earlier caught up with Bryce Fountain in that incident there in the second to last corner of the Watkins Glen circuit, but able to come back through for 7th. Justin Melmani 8th, Andy Hurdle 9th, Darcy Ford rounding out the top 10. And what were you saying earlier with playoff points wise with Jose Mercado?
He will survive by just enough, essentially. So I'll finalize the gap here once I finalize the results. I think it gets to 5 points in the difference between Mercado and Ford, but I will confirm that as we go.
Sounds good as Jordan Kalini and Bryce Fontaine make their way to the start-finish line. Jared Ireland, I bet, will be soon. He's trickling along.
Where was I here?
Boring, he didn't smash into them. That would have been possibly the perfect foreshadow of what's to come for the next 7 weeks. Or well, technically we do have an off week for Labor Day. We do.
Yes.
But I digress. 7 race weeks left.
Correct.
And how many more times will we see this man burning it down within those next 7 race weeks, leading up until we crown a champion back at the place where when we first started this whole thing, we crowned a champion at that place, Phoenix Raceway, for the championship finale for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. First time in iRacing that will be crowning a champion at Phoenix Raceway. No, how about this?
Usually you do that in private, lads.
Ha ha.
I don't know. I thought it was good. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say the 00 had the RepuLinks fastest lap. I don't have that immediately in front of me, although I could get it.
He was the only... Yeah, it's there's a last and then there's a best. He had a 109. No one else got a 109, so I would imagine that's it.
Well, yeah, that's easy enough to plug in for sure. And yeah, so if I go ahead and sort this out. So unofficially, of course, we'll wait for the Sim Racer Hub confirmation. The final gap at the bubble is 8 points between Jose Mercado and Darcy Ford. Mercado in. Ford, for the first time, will be on the outside looking in.
But I would say right now what he's thinking is, I just made it in. Simple as that for now.
Yes.
Obviously, the mindset will change once we get to Bristol next Monday night, but in the moment, I'd say right now in his head, the sigh of relief that his playoff streak will continue onward is right there.
Well, for Mercado, remember, he didn't make it in Season 4, so
Yes.
This is back-to-back years that he's been in after being such a force on the console side of things. And I just got a bug in my ear saying that Sim Racer Hub will be updated ASAP so we can get everything official, and that way we'll also be able to allocate the bonus points for the season. For the regular season, I should say.
I mean, for most races, it's usually the post-race win interview we do, and then we get straight to the standings if they are updated by the time the interview is done, so I can only imagine we'll continue on that anyways. We're currently waiting on a 00 of Jordan Kalinian to get into the Discord voice chat, and we'll have the yet another chat with him. Jordy?
Yeah, well, like I said, literally half the time we've been talking with him. So it's a matter of figuring out different angles each time.
So the two truths, one two truths, one lie. He loves winning, he loves dominating, and he loves talking to us.
Gee, I wonder what the lie. Well, I think he's warmed up to us. So maybe there's 3 truths there. That's what we're allowed to think, right?
Professionally speaking, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and Jose Mercado now behind the scenes is just making the point I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
In all-time wins, Kalinian's just 5 wins now back of Corbin McCauley, who's been here now for 5, completed-wise, over 5.5 seasons. He'll get to 6 eventually.
Yes.
But still, though, like 15 wins over 2 years, and if we were to do the quick calculation on how many races that would be,
not many.
We did, so that'd be, I think, 22, and then I think, judging by the quick math, that's over 35 races.
Well, tonight would be round 14 of this season, so
yeah, it would be.
So that'd be 36 in the books then,
or that might be 36. Yeah, because my all-time rankings, which I updated after Darlington last Monday, has Kalinian at 35. So yeah, that'd be 15 wins over 36 starts by the sound of it.
Yeah, so a little over 40% win rate. Hard to argue with that.
Yep, cannot make an argument on that at all, as it appears we do have a Jordan Kalinian in the Discord voice chat now, so we might as well head on over there and talk with him again.
Yep.
Alrighty, Jordan Kalinian, you got a copy. Again. You know what? That explains it. There we go. Jordan Kalinian, do we have a copy?
I can hear you, Regan. You got me?
Yeah, I got you. We got you now for the 7th time this season. Yeah, Jordy was saying just a couple minutes ago, basically half the season we've been talking to you. So yet another one. How about that?
Yeah, another fun race. Been a pretty good season so far.
Absolutely. 7 wins on the year. This one coming in the GTR 110 at the Glen at Watkins Glen. The regular season finale for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Career win number 15. Jose Mercado was just saying here behind the scenes, and I did as well, with Jordy. Only 5 wins now away you are from the all-time winningest driver in the series, who's been here since the first season. When we first got started back in 2020, he's at 20 wins. You're now at 15. And you've been able to do that just over now, I believe it's, Jordy was saying, 36 starts since last season. How does that wrap around your head?
Dang, yeah, that's really cool. Obviously, all the guys are very talented, and Corbin has had a foothold on the lead for a long time, so to be able to start inching my way up there is pretty cool.
Regular season championship locked up before tonight's event, and a whole bunch of playoff points in there. With Jordy, what was it? 2,062 something that he has going into Bristol? Jordy?
There, I'm good now. Yeah, I just forgot to change over the input. 2062 is correct.
Yeah, there you go. And I mean, all those playoff points compared to where everyone else is pretty much at. You're in your own zip code there. You just keep building up the points. You have that regular season championship in there, of course. Some people will say that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because there's a whole 7 race weeks now of the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs coming up. But you just keep building. You keep building upon what you've built, the foundation that you've built up since first starting your sophomore year with us, and now you do it here at Watkins Glen. And yet another road/street course win on the year, now 3 in a row. How is this one compared to some of the other ones back at Monza and Chicago? How is Watkins Glen tonight in comparison?
Yeah, Watkins Glen is just a really fun track. It's probably my favorite road course to go to. It's just kind of slinging the car around and keeping the slides to a minimum. And just obviously really, really nice to have that cushion going into the playoffs as well. The regular season was just about setting up to try and make the playoffs as easy as possible. So to be able to do that and give myself the best chance of getting to the final and seeing what we can do there has been the goal, and to see that we were able to accomplish it, it's been really cool.
And we did see a couple different strategies at play here tonight, of course, and you had no problem cycling through your little case. Again, with this race not having the the automatic full course yellows for incidents, we did see what happened there early on in the third and final stage, but you had no problem with your strategy while everyone else was kind of doing their thing there. Tell us kind of what you were like going into the race and how you were preparing for it, and how it all kind of came along with your expectations, how you played it all with your strategies.
Yeah, stage one was pretty much just goal was to qualify and pole and just stay in the lead and pick up that stage point. There's some options while pitting for the end of stage one, but taking tires, just there was a lot of fall off, so taking tires there seemed to make the most sense. And with only a 6-lap run, it kind of opened up some options to save a set of tires for the middle of stage 3. I felt like if I could have the tires there, that would give me a really big advantage, even if I had to give up the lead to get them. In the middle of stage 2, I was really thinking about my original strategy was to flip the stage like I usually do, but I saw a lot of the other guys decide to do that, and the 22 had his issue and also flipped the stage. So called an audible there and just stayed out, and then we were able to stay out at the end of stage 2 on the old tires and make it to that last pit stop, and take our tires and pull away.
Jordy, what do you got for Jordan tonight?
I was going to say, it's really, really hard to think of different angles since, literally it feels like every other week we've been chatting with you here, Jordan. So from my perspective here, I guess, I guess the overarching question, obviously tonight being the end of the regular season, knowing that you were at a track that you're comfortable at, how important was it for you to really be able to put your best performance forward in order to launch into the playoffs next week?
I mean, it's always important just to keep carrying that momentum. Wrecking here and then having to start the first round of playoffs coming off of a wreck wouldn't be a great way to maintain the momentum. So just keeping that and getting the confidence back up after a pretty rough race at Darlington.
Yeah, obviously, I don't want to say uncharacteristic in terms of last week, but this week certainly feels like a return to form, I guess would be the best way to put it in your case. So, now that we're officially able to shift focus now into the playoffs, knowing that you have such a huge gap over the rest of the field going into each round, I think I probably know the answer to this, but I'm assuming your approach won't change much going into each of these next 7 weeks here as you look toward a potential championship run.
Yeah, the goal is always to go and do the best you can, pick as many stage points as you can, and also get the win if possible. Strategy doesn't really change here. It's just a matter of how to get it done, maybe a little more cautious because there's a bit more to lose now, but overall, just keep doing what we've been doing. It's been working, so hopefully it keeps working.
It keeps working. Regan, I think that might be the understatement of the season. So with that, I will go ahead and throw it back to your side of things. Maybe not the most in-depth, hard-hitting questions on my side, but good to hear the overall prep as we look forward to what's to come. So Regan, back to you.
Indeed. So, looking ahead now, your second chase for an Earl Ross Cup. Of course, you came up one position short last year to Corbin McCauley. This time around, knowing how this playoff schedule plays out compared to Season 5, what's kind of your look into this one? It's your second try. Maybe the second time is the charm. They say the third time. The saying is the third time's the charm, but knowing how hot you've been all year, and this is now your second attempt at this, you have a lot more experience underneath you, and of course, plenty more victories on your resume. How do you go into this one compared to last year where, you kind of got the ball rolling towards the end of the regular season, then it was early in the playoffs where you really started to pick up all the victories. So kind of different stories between going into last year's playoffs and this year, but what's kind of your look into this one compared to when you first got started?
Yeah, obviously I've gotten to know a lot of the drivers a lot more, kind of how they race and what kind of moves they like to make. So just being able to anticipate some of what they're going to do and some of the strategies they might pull has kind of helped me to be able to tune my strategies to kind of accommodate for that. Just going into the playoffs, like I said, it's going to be about doing more of the same and keeping out of trouble, and should be able to get to Phoenix. Then if we get to Phoenix, just again staying out of trouble and trying to get to the lead.
And it all starts off at a track where you look to go yet again back-to-back at the Great Coliseum at Bristol Motor Speedway next Monday night. Looking across the schedule at these specific races and the way all the rounds play out now, of course, it's just a 12-driver playoff field with 2 drivers going home in the first 2 rounds. And obviously there will be 4 out and 4 in at Phoenix Raceway to end off the year in late September. What do you think of this year's schedule, especially starting off at Bristol, as I said, a track that you look to go back to back at yet again? How do you go through? How are you looking at each round?
Yeah, I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I don't have it memorized. But I know first round I believe is Bristol and Kansas. Both those tracks historically have been pretty good to me, so looking forward to those. I haven't been to Bristol since the tire update, so hopefully that's not a really bad single lane track like some of the other ones have turned into. Yeah, excited for this round. Really like both these tracks. I think the second round might be Dover and Talladega. So obviously just continuing to get as many points as possible to try and make it through Talladega stress-free will be the key for that one. And I think the Roval's in the third round, so hopefully keep up some of the road course stuff we've had going on this season.
Sounds good. Who gets a thanks for being able to do it every single Monday night?
Just appreciate the league and all you guys putting this on. It's been a really fun season, and look forward to getting into the playoffs.
Indeed. Well, this man right here, folks, is the heavy favorite to go for the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup as the playoffs will begin next Monday night. So without further ado, that does it for another post-race winner interview with the 00 of Salisbury, North Carolina's Jordan Kalinian, this time picking up the win at Watkins Glen International in the 5th annual GTR 110, round number 14 on the year, the regular season finale. Jordan, once again, congratulations on yet another win on the year and also the regular season championship. And we look forward to hopefully talking to you plenty more times when it comes playoff time for the next 7 race weeks. And of course, best of luck in your second try at Earl Ross Cup.
Thank you, Regan.
That was yet again another talk with the 00 of Jordan Kalinian picking up another win on the year for Season 6 at the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Now into the Valvoline Instant Oil Change post-race show. Unofficial results for tonight's event. Of course, Kalinian picking up the win. Bryce Fontaine second, Jared Ireland rounding at the podium. As you said earlier, Jordy, a valiant effort to try to push for a bubble-busting situation, but not enough. Still a solid finish for car number 13. Blake Throneberg and Raymond Handyman, a pair of rookies, rounding at the top 5. Former series champions Scott Bailey, Corbin McCauley 6th and 7th. Recent Darlington winner Justin Belmonte 8th. Andy Hurdle 9th. And Darcy Ford 10th. There's a pair of 519 Atlantic Motorsports teammates right there at the bottom of the top 10 who can officially say that they both have made it into the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. Moving on the rest of the way, 11th place Kyle Knoll, 12th is Ty Higginbottom, Mason Tomlinson 13th, rounding at the lead lap cars ahead of Tom Janikowski, 1 lap down in 14th, Dan Cudmore 15th, Matthew McDonald 16th, C.D. Mangrum 17th, Mary Ercolani 18th, Jose Mercado 19th, Adam Wilson rounding out the top 20, and then it's rounding out the whole field to 12 of Mike Marini, a bit of a heartbreaker there. Again, a must-win situation for a driver who, again, has had plenty of road course success in the past, back in the console days, just hasn't been able to fully figure it on the iRacing side just yet. But there is still one more chance for him to at least try and pick up a win at the Charlotte Roval during the Earl Ross Cup playoffs later in the season. So we'll get to that whenever that time comes. But Jordy, hard to believe. We have finally made it to the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup playoffs. Now things really reset. It's down to 12 drivers fighting for one championship across 7 race weeks, starting at Bristol. Of course, round of 12, round of 10, round of 8, and then the final 4 will head back to the place that first, I won't say in a way began this whole thing. It began the championship runs for the era of the E-Motorsports Network and the NASCAR Series at Phoenix Raceway. So 14 races down and now 7 more to go to crown the next champion of the NASCAR Series. And quite a thrilling regular season it was, even though basically half of it was won by Jordan Kalinian. Regardless, still plenty of storylines and, some decent names that were left out of this playoff field. They'll still have a best of the rest challenge to go for, but still, though, quite some interesting names left out, not having a shot anymore at the illustrious Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Former champions out, former Championship 4 participants out. Some, pretty heavy hitters over the course of past regular seasons. Guys who've had moments over the course of this regular season, just couldn't string it together consistently. I think the best way to boil it down, 4 simple words at this point: playtime is over. Time for the rubber to really hit the road here over the next 8 weeks, 7 of which, of course, will have races with our 1 week off. But yeah, now we really get to see what our top 12 are made of.
Indeed. So as you see the schedule graphic here up on your screens, this is how it's all going to play out. 14 races complete in the regular season. It all starts with 12 drivers going for 10 spots in the round of 12 at Bristol Motor Speedway and Kansas Speedway. I'm just going to try to get the actual race names in here. It starts off with the Zesty Paws 250, which, as a matter of fact, that's actually going to be the crowning of the Zesty Paws Challenge champion. Someone's going to be going home with an iRacing gift card there. And then it's Kansas Speedway, the elimination race for the round of 12 on August 11th, the Tornado Alley E-Racing 200. The round of 10 then goes to short track and super speedway racing. It starts at Dover Motor Speedway on August 18th for the Audrey's Legacy 200. And then it's to the good old Talladega Super Speedway on August 25th for the APR Racing 250. That's the Amara Parker Racing 250. The round of 8 then sees 8 drivers remaining, challenging for just 4 spots for the championship, the Black Fly Championship race at Phoenix Raceway. September 8th is the Kyle's Fried Chicken and Barbecue Roval 130. That's where the Dash for Cash is going to wrap up, and someone's going home with $150. So Charlotte Roval, September 8th, and then the elimination race, which we've seen this before, Las Vegas, then towards Phoenix. It'll be the Pizza Main 200 on September 15th at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So again, August 4th, August 11th, 18th, and 25th, 4 races across 2 rounds right there. Then we're going to have a week off for that Labor Day Monday. And then 3 weeks in September, 2 of them for the round of 8. And then September 22nd is when we crown the next Earl Ross Cup champion. And someone will etch their name into the history books, whether it could be a repeater or someone new for the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Jordy, this is the time to buckle up. These 7 race weeks coming up, they're going to be wild. It could be again, Jordan Kalinian dominated half the regular season, but the way we have to promote it is, it could be anyone's championship to win. Someone could peak at the right time within these next 7 race weeks.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, regular season doesn't matter as much anymore. We're not at the point where it doesn't matter or none of the races before matter. We'll get to that point when we decide a champion in a couple months' time. But, the battle lines have been drawn here. Everyone in relatively short order. I know Sim Racer Hub's being a little bit of a pain behind the scenes here.
Yes.
But, soon enough, everyone will know exactly what they have to do in order to advance. And it's just whatever it takes to get to the championship 4 if you're one of these drivers in the top 12. And, there's a little bit more room to work with in the first couple of rounds, given that there's only 2 eliminations instead of 3, like 2 drivers being eliminated each round. But, everyone's got to be conscious of where everyone else is. And, if the racing wasn't tight before, there's going to be absolutely no room moving forward. So, I'll be looking forward to seeing who's able to kind of stand out head and shoulders among the rest once all is said and done.
Well, Sim Racer Hub might be down at possibly the worst possible time for all this, because we would have the updated standings up, and we'd show you the playoff grid. But you know what? We do have driver profiles, Jordy. You know what? If you can quickly go through the field right now, I have no problem showing off all the profiles if that works for you.
Of our 12, you mean?
Yes, sir.
So, we'll go ahead and do that. I'm just kind of figuring out behind the scenes what the unofficial regular season bonuses will be, but let me just get things into proper order here once we figure in some W's. So, goes without saying, the number 00 Toyota of Jordan Kalinian is going to be at the head of the field with his 7 wins out of 14 races in the regular season. Again, Salisbury, North Carolina. You guys know that by now. You've certainly heard it from pretty much every angle. And then we move on to a guy with 2 victories this season, but of course he has the 5 playoff point penalty to be applied here as well. That'll be the number 48 blue collar racing entry of Scott Bailey, our season 4 champ back in 2023 out of Allendale, Michigan, 4th year in the series. Then we move on to a guy who just locked in his spot here a couple weeks ago. That'd be the first of our Tornado Alley drivers, the number 1 of CD Mangrum out of Atlanta, Georgia. Again, picked up the win to officially lock himself in a couple weeks ago, but was second in regular season points, so always a consistent threat. Then we move on to our Darlington winner from last week, the number 60 of Justin Belmonte, driving for GTR Motorsports out of Pachico, New York. He's got at least 1 win in every season, just, again, got into the playoffs last week by virtue of his win at Darlington, as mentioned, but was looking pretty good despite missing a couple of weeks as well. And talking about missing a couple of weeks, next we have a guy who debuted a little bit later in the season and is leading our Rookie of the Year standings right now. That'll be the number 85 Eternal Racing. I think it's a Ford and not a Toyota, as we have on the graphic, of Raymond Hanneman out of Ottawa, Ontario. And he's really made an impression since coming into the league. Obviously picked up that win at Texas just 3 or 4 weeks into his tenure with us. So really has made a statement, and he's going to have a couple of teammates with him too. So first we'll head to Cape Coral, Florida for another Eternal Racing / Hyperdrive esports entry of Bryce Fontaine in his second season. Of course, picked up the win in Montreal there way back in round 4 or 5.
We'll forget about the hometown on the graphic. Sorry.
The season. Yeah, I had mentioned Cape Coral, Florida right off the hop there to try and cover that. So that wraps up our group of 6 winners that we had in the regular season. I mentioned that, there's another one in the Eternal family who's going to be part of this as well. Mason Tomlinson making his playoff debut in the number 4, driving for Eternal / Hyperdrive out of Eudora, Kansas in his Toyota. So he's going to be looking to make a strong impression. Of course, captured the in-season tournament as well. And yeah, we'll see what the number 4 is able to offer. And he's looked really good at times over the course of this season as well. So looking forward to seeing what the 4 is able to put together, as we'll head to the guy with the most points without a victory. Clinched his spot on points last week. The defending Earl Ross Cup champion, the number 17 of Corbin McCauley, driving for McCauley Racing out of Charlottetown, PEI, in his number 17 Chevy. And again, he'll have a little bit of work to do to try and make it back-to-back Earl Ross Cup championships. But if he finds the right momentum at the right time, he's certainly a tough guy to stop. And I was talking about Raymond Hanneman making an impression as a rookie. How about the number 3 of Blake Thronberg as well, the second of our rookies in the second Earl Ross Cup field for this season, driving out of Graham, North Carolina for Back Row Motorsports. And, he's a guy that I've felt could really make an impression over the course of the season. Hasn't broken through for that win yet. Earlier today, I was actually making a parallel in my head to the job that Mike Nickens did. If you go back to season 3, a guy who was very successful in the regular season, but didn't pick up a win, then wound up winning 3 playoff races en route to a championship 4. I could see Thronberg doing something similar if he gets hot, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. But he'll have yet another champion to account for in this playoff field. The second Tornado Alley entry, the number 97 of Ty Higginbotham, our season 3 Earl Ross Cup champion out of Kansas City, Missouri. Year 5 in the series, doesn't have a win yet. He's won at least once in each of his previous 4 seasons. This would be a great time for him to break the goose egg if he's able to right about now. And yeah, now we've come to the 2 guys who would start outside of qualifying for the round of 10 if we were to just kind of skip the round of 12 entirely. So first we'll go to the number 7 519 Atlantic Motorsports entry of Andy Hurdle. He's got the 1 race win at Charlotte last season, but the year's been a little bit different for him so far, but he's done enough to get himself into the playoff picture. And rounding out that playoff picture, despite the blown engine tonight, it is not him.
Oh?
It is him. Another one of our day ones, the number 41 GTR Motorsports Ford of Jose Mercado out of Kissimmee, Florida. Again, the gap winds up being 8 points at the bubble between Mercado and Ford at the very end. And Mercado, this is back-to-back playoff entries for him. Former Championship 4 entry in seasons 1 and 3. And if there's one thing he knows in terms of looking at the overall playoff picture, he knows how to fight from behind. So despite being outside looking in as it relates to round of 10 advancement right now, don't count this guy out in any shape or form. So there you have it. There's our field of 12 as it stands right now. And yeah, obviously it looks a little bit different there just because we don't have it ordered. Well, I was going to say it's not ordered by wins right now, so that's why we're getting a little bit of a different picture. But yeah, that's what the playoff field is looking like. And yeah, so obviously Fontaine listed 13th there. He would jump up by virtue of his win. And again, unfortunately, that pushes Darcy Ford down to P13 and outside of the playoffs looking in.
Yeah, I believe I might have made a mistake there. I think I said Darcy Ford made it on accident. So yeah, Jose Mercado actually still able to make it in.
The graphic came up that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So the total, total point wise, I would assume that means 8 points is the difference between making the playoffs.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Darcy Ford's playoff streak comes to an end. Jose Mercado gets back in, though it won't be kind of within the iRacing era. whenever Jose Mercado DNF'd, my assumption was that, oh no, it's going to be 2 for 3 within the iRacing era, that Jose Mercado is not going to make the playoffs. But no, instead, Darcy Ford makes it 5 in a row, but not 6.
Yeah, just couldn't make that run once Mercado had his DNF. So that's what ultimately had that happen. Again, there was an avenue if Ford had gotten up to second, potentially, where they could have been tied. But yeah, just was not to be here tonight for the 64. And again, that for the first time, we'll see him excluded from the Earl Ross Cup playoff field.
Yeah, very unfortunate, but I guess there is the best of the rest challenge to go for nonetheless and try to pick up some race wins along the way. But off of that point, Jordy, what a field this is. I mean, to go from 16 to 12 drivers, it's a stack crop.
Well, I mean, that's, I think, what puts our series up against just about anyone, that added exclusivity of getting into the playoff picture in the first place. So, yeah, the fact that these 12 have made it in, like, that's a congratulations to all of you guys really from the beginning here. So, kudos to you guys. It all resets again next week. So don't get too comfortable, folks. Still got a long way to go.
Buckle your seatbelt, grab your popcorn, and get ready for 7 of the wildest race weeks in a row yet. Within Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing, it could very well be the best playoff run that we've ever seen in the history of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series, especially within the iRacing era. And it all gets started for round number 1 for the round of 12 at Bristol Motor Speedway. The Great Coliseum hosts the Zesty Paws 250 next Monday, August 4th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Atlantic is around when we'll begin live coverage here on the E-Motorsports Network YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any more live coverage of any of our races here on YouTube for the E-Motorsports Network and the NASCAR Series. Jordy, we're starting off at a short track, Bristol Motor Speedway, as I said, the Great Coliseum. It's quite the start.
Well, I mean, everybody enter the arena, folks. That's almost a perfect way to start it, I think. Like, just, overall chaos to be expected at a place like Bristol, especially now that, like I said, the battle lines have been drawn. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing guys just fight that little bit harder.
100%. So again, that's the Zesty Paws 250 at Bristol Motor Speedway next Monday night to start the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. As Jordy said there, of course, congratulations to all 12 drivers that have made it in, still with a chance, over the next 7 race weeks to fight for the illustrious Cup and one of the grandest prizes to win in all of sim racing. So that's next Monday night, but for tonight, that officially does it for live coverage of the GTR 110 at the Glen here at Watkins Glen International, the regular season finale for Season 6 of the E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series on iRacing. Congratulations once again to your regular season champion, Jordan Kalinian, on win number 7 on the year and career win number 15. He enters in with a lot of playoff points, of course. Still too early to say whether or not it will be a guaranteed championship 4 spot for him, but all those points certainly have helped him have a better chance to make it in there. So on behalf of Jordy Carraher, the E-Motorsports Network Competition Committee, sponsors, partners, drivers, everyone involved in making this happen, my name is Regan McCauley. Thank you very much for tuning in to another live broadcast here for the E-Motorsports Network on iRacing. We will see you all once again next Monday night, August 4th, for the Zesty Paws 250 at Bristol Motor Speedway to start the 6th annual Earl Ross Cup Playoffs. Until then, that was another edition of E-Motorsports Network Monday Madness.